Antifa group joining them, who are more radical, you can tell because they're covering their faces. Now, flip it. We've got that side. Let's look at the local angry patriots. Imagine if another group of
Rice was found guilty earlier this year of second-degree assault, but the jury could not agree whether he committed first-degree assault. In June, Baltimore Circuit Judge Yvette Bryant acquitted Rice of that charge, a felony, during a bench trial. She says it's because she could not rule out whether Rice was provoked.
She's essentially said that, well, Mr. Rice could really think that Crosby was coming at him in some fashion or other. And almost like
Oh, it's so nice right now. Mid-afternoon. We'll go off in the shade and off in the sun. Yep. It's beautiful. We brought out a journey around the world, east to west. Yeah. Got a lot of requests for this one, which is unusual. This is a good book, 1958, Oxford University Press, New York, London. Arnold J. Toynbee, 1958, printed in the United States of America. Library of Congress, catalog card number 58-12951. Page 104 is the awakening of the Indian peasantry. Is awaken a transitive or an intransitive verb? I have never been able to decide, and I do not want to be told the answer now. For an ambivalent meaning of the word, that would be a good one for the crossword. Ambivalent, A-M-B-I-V-A-L-E-N-T, ambivalent. For an ambivalent meaning of the word exactly fits my present subject. The Indian peasantry are certainly being waked up today by a dedicated minority of their urban fellow countrymen, but no amount of nudging or prodding would avail to arouse Rip Van Winkle from his long slumber if something were not astir inside the sleeper. The Indian peasantry are certainly being waked up today by a dedicated minority of their urban fellow countrymen, but no amount of nudging or prodding would avail to arouse Rip Van Winkle from his long slumber if something were not astir inside the sleeper. And even if his would-be benefactors knew that they could wake him up against his will by sticking pins into him, they are too humane and wise and scrupulous to administer this Russian treatment. Their aim is to help the Indian peasant to help himself, and they will put up with frustrations and setbacks rather than coerce him. This is why the present Indian community development work is both admirable and intensely interesting. How long has the peasant been asleep? Almost as long as the time that has elapsed up to date since agriculture was invented. I guess guess that's deeper on the surface depending on your experience thus far. Perhaps as many as 8,000 harvests have been reaped in the world so far. So not much less than 8,000 years may have passed over the sleeping peasant's head. What accounts for this prolonged state of coma? The peasant has been stupefied by the weight of the burdens placed on his shoulders. Cities and wars, pyramids and cathedrals, arts and crafts, kings and priests, soldiers and Brahmins, all these have climbed on to the peasant's back and have lived as parasites on his labors. They have stripped him of his surplus production, leaving him to live at starvation level, while these exotic institutions and privileged minorities have battened on the fruits of his work. Civilization, with its two congenital diseases, war and slavery, has been built up at the peasant's expense, and till the other day the peasant has taken it for granted that this is his unalterable fate. Look into the countenance, and you will see there the same suffering and the same patient endurance of it that you find in the beautiful eyes of the mild oxen who pull the peasant's plow and draw his cart until they drop in their tracks from sheer exhaustion. This is how the ox's bucolic master and his womenfolk and his children have lived and died since civilization began. The peasant's fatalism has, of course, been intuitive. It has not been founded on a reasoned interpretation of economic facts, yet the facts warranted it down to the outbreak of the 18th century agrarian and industrial revolution, for till then mankind's surplus production was so small that if there was to be such a thing as civilization at all, it was bound to be the monopoly of a minority enjoying it at the peasant's majority's cost. Today, for the first time in history, there is a possibility of amenities for all. Amenities, another A word for the crossword. A-M-E-N-I-T-I-E-S. Today, for the first time in history, there is a possibility of amenities for all. All over the world today, the peasantry are awakening to this revolutionary change in their age-old situation. In India today, it is the policy of the powers that be to help the peasant to attain the better life that is now, at last, within his reach. When we are talking of human beings, better means better spiritually, but in human life, the distinction between soul and body is an artificial dichotomy. Man cannot develop his spiritual faculties if the material conditions of his existence are depressed to an animal level, where the level is as low as this spiritual and material betterment must go together, and both are crafted for the present community development work in India. Any attempt to improve the condition of the teeming Indian peasantry has to be on a gigantic scale, and the whole mass cannot be leavened in a single operation. The work has been started in blocks of villages distributed all over the subcontinent. It is hoped that in a few years, the network of the organization will cover all the villages that there are. Leaves already fallen. So dry. That one in the book. organization will cover all the villages that there are. At the headquarters of each block, there is a little team of experts: a medical officer, an agricultural advisor, a civil engineer. But the key men and women on the professional staff are the workers in the villages who are in direct touch with the people. These village workers have to know something about road building, well digging, public health, and crops. And they have also to be diplomatists, because it lies with them to get the villagers moving under their own steam. The work achieves success when leaders arise in the villages who take up the work themselves and persuade their neighbors to follow them. The officers of the Community Development Organization set great store by winning over the village women. If the women are not persuaded of the value of the work, they will effectively prevent the men from moving. But if once the women are convinced, the men's concurrence is assured. Women are, of course, conservative-minded, but they are practical-minded too, and prejudice will not inhibit them from adopting sanitary arguments or even family planning if it has been demonstrated to their satisfaction that these innovations benefit their children. What are the stages in the development process? The crowning achievement is a schoolhouse built with substantial contributions and labor and money from the villagers themselves. But first things must come first, and for the improvement of life in an Indian village, the first necessities are wells and drains. In an unregenerate Indian village, the lanes ooze with a mixture of cow dung and human sewage, and this source of 100 debilitating infections seeps into the village well, if there is one. So the first step is to dig a cement-lined well with a high rim to shield it from contamination at ground level. The second step is to convert the poisonous lane into a concrete path with concrete drain running alongside of it. These elementary improvements work wonders, not only for public health, but also for personal self-respect. Such work may sound prosaic, but the spirit behind it is imaginative and humane, and the practical idealism of this great Indian enterprise may be going to bring about one of the most beneficent I know I'm not saying this right. Beneficent, I think I said it, to bring about one of the most beneficent revolutions in the peasantry's life that have been known so far to history. We'll pause there. Next section is the Indian Rivers. Yeah, this is a great book. Yeah, I'm going to stay out a bit longer. It's so nice right here. Oh, that breeze feels really good.